Nate Block, we have been together for some years, you and me. Um, when we met, you were in a different line of work than you're in today. You were part of a very innovative program that was heavily supported and funded by law enforcement in a jail diversion context. You had come to that work with career experience as a firefighter, critical care EMT. You have your own lived experience story. And along the way, just in my view, from my perspective, in the past year and a half, have just picked up speed in your, let's say, collaborative powers with others to innovate and bring new kinds of services to people in need. And along the way, came on board with us as a cadre member to fit into your busy schedule that when needed, we can rely on you to provide our courseware. Talk a little bit about how what we do at Jumpstart has impacted your worldview and your sense of what's needed in the future in the crisis de-escalation training and education context.
Yeah, well, the whole journey's, it's been my honor, truthfully. And I feel like everything that has come my way, all the opportunities that have been given to me, and all the action that I've taken in spite of a lot of fear and leaning into part of the process has culminated in, you had just asked me how has that changed my worldview. My worldview hasn't really changed. It's just been reaffirmed that I'm on the right path.
Okay, that's great.
And what that is I've always been in pursuit of the thing that works.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a part of and take the actions that are necessary to get the best results for everyone. And that goes against the grain sometimes. And as we have journeyed together and as I've used these tools in writing protocols and standing up processes within a couple of agencies, it gives a little bit of continuity and resilience and integrity to an approach, which is there are alternatives to just calling 911. And we can be our own first responders, and we can officialize it without fear of this risk-aversive nature that tends to sort of permeate services, and echoing some of the lessons learned from Gary Nesser and Jack Cambria. The best approach sometimes means doing this thing, which is negotiating, which is meeting with people where they're at emotionally and psychologically, and trying to figure out what is the best outcome. And we do that on the behalf of the person sometimes, but we do it to save lives. And I believe that this work saved lives.
Why do you think our care and services sector is so risk averse? Because I agree with you. I think that risk aversion and fear is everywhere in agencies today. What's your sense of why that is, and how do we move past it?
It's a really good question. I think fear of the action taking part of it. It's fear of, if we stand by a protocol or a way of doing things or a platform and it fails, we have failed. That doesn't have to necessarily be true.
Right.
If the practices are vetted,
sound,
tested.
Yeah.
And I think that work we're doing here right now. And it's been proven. I mean, the science is there. The psychological background and practice is decades old. I mean, This was happening before I was born, Andy.
So you're claiming that people associate personal failure to programmatic failure, personal failure to curriculum failure, and because people do not want to be associated to failure, they avoid areas where they could take responsibility or show initiative. I think that that's completely true, and I think that there is a leadership vacuum in many of our care and services systems throughout the nation, where people are so quick to turf responsibility for poor outcomes, and no one is really coming forward and saying, the buck stops with me, this is ultimately on me, and I am going to carry the weight of that until it is fixed by making these changes. And sadly, we don't see that. I agree with your appraisal.
Yeah, and to speak to where it could be fixed, where we could go,
Yeah.
is leaning on and utilizing services like Jumpstart Mastery, Tony Blauer's SPEAR programs,
Right.
catered to whatever audience or practical purpose that they can be utilized for, and leaning on the mistakes and the failures and the trials that have already happened. To reference Gary Nesner again, a lot of lessons were learned in his undertaking. That work's already been done.
Yeah. We have the benefit of lessons learned. All that is required is the courage to trust them,
Yeah.
rather than rediscover. It's funny, my kids are great examples of opposite ends of the spectrum of this. My oldest daughter, I can let her know about icebergs on the horizon, and she'll probably want to start gently, changing course 3-4 degrees now, so she'll have a wide berth from these obstacles in 15 miles. My youngest daughter will be like, okay, Dad, yeah, but if you don't turn now, you're going to have to make a harder turn when you get closer to the thing. No, I got it, Dad, thanks. Okay. So now I'm watching the thing on the horizon get bigger, and I'm saying to her, what is the logic of having to turn harder now when you could have turned less before? Dad, I got it, thanks. And she'll have to run into the thing or radically turn the ship before the thing. So she had her own experience. And she and I laugh about it until we're in one of these debates that we can sometimes have. But in that example, it's only impacting her. There are people who are essentially responsible for the well-being of hundreds and thousands of people in a system who are completely not interested in, let's say, getting ahead of problems that are on the horizon by heroic and courageous leadership. Rather, that they would turf, they would blame the problems on other sources, like just not enough resources, not enough money, not enough positions. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of hearing that and looking at the data that extraordinary amounts of money are being allocated for behavioral health and care and services, and we have a lot of inefficiencies. And those inefficiencies are enabled to occur by virtue of a vacuum of leadership.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And something that resonates with me that I've heard from a host of people. I'm not really sure where the original quote came from.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that can't be accomplished on the other side of hard work.
Yep.
And the hard work is so uncomfortable.
Yep.
You really have to lean in and not say like, I am indoctrinating this thing into my life and it's the best thing ever and nothing can replace it. And that's a foolhardy, sort of approach to take. What I mean is we have these proven principles, lots of research behind it, and we just need to lean into what works.
Yeah.
And what works is really uncomfortable sometimes, and
Yep.
that all happens in here.
Yep, I agree. It starts with who we are, our personal transformation. So, thank you so much for your contributions to our organization and the way that you serve our students. It's just a delight to have you part of this production and part of our team. So, thank you.
Yeah, it's my honor.